Emergency broadcast. This is not a drill. Deep-sea sensors have just detected a massive underwater displacement. A catastrophic tsunami is rapidly approaching our shoreline. All coastal villages have less than 20 minutes to evacuate to high ground. Repeat, evacuate immediately. Abandon your belongings. Wait, look at the ocean. The seabed is completely exposed. Oh no, the warning was too late. Look at the horizon. It's a literal wall of water. It blocks out the sky. Run! Just run!
Hello everyone, dear friends. The weather is wonderful outside today. I wonder what adventures await me today. It's strange. There's no one on the street. And what is that sound? What kind of wall is this? Oh no, it's the tsunami. We can't escape. We need to wake Mikey up soon. We need to protect the village in time. Mikey, open up quickly.
Well, what is it, JJ? I was asleep and had a pleasant dream.
Mikey, we need to do something urgently. There's a tsunami. It's very unkind.
JJ, stop kidding me. It's not funny at all.
I don't dare joke. Look for yourself. Well, are you sure?
JJ, we're finished. This wave is so huge. Why are we standing? We need to run away soon.
Mikey, calm down. Let's think about what we can do to save ourselves and save the villager.
Can we build a shelter then?
A large house on a hill with many rooms?
Yes, we need to get started soon.
Then go ahead.
I am really scared today because a tsunami can hit the village very soon, and I know I do not have much time. A normal little house on the ground is a bad idea because a giant wave can push straight through walls and carry villagers away. So I decide to build something much higher. I want a giant tree with a house on the branches. A tall tree is smart for flood safety because height is the first defense against rising water. If the water cannot reach the rooms, then people can stay dry and wait. I also like a tree because the trunk can work like a central tower, and the branches can hold different platforms. That means I can place places to stand, rooms to hide in, and spots for JJ and the villagers too. I am not trying to build something tiny and pretty. I need something big, fast, and high enough to beat the wave. So my plan is simple: a huge oak tree, a house on top, and enough space for everyone to survive until the water goes away. I begin with the trunk and use oak wood. Oak is a really good block for a giant tree because the bark texture is easy to read from far away, and the warm brown color makes it look natural right away. I make the base thick because the lower part of a tree should look stronger than the top. That is not just for looks. In building, a wide base makes a tall thing feel stable. A tsunami shelter especially should not look skinny at the bottom because the whole point is to trust it when danger comes. I place the trunk in a broad shape so later I can hollow some of it out or build close to it without the whole thing looking weak. Even though this is a fantasy treehouse, I still want the weight to make sense. A thick lower trunk looks like it can carry branches, rooms, ladders, and villagers. If I started with a thin pole, the whole project would feel risky and silly. So I keep adding oak until the trunk feels like a proper giant tree and not a little stick. After the trunk has a strong start, I grow it higher and then build the first big branch. I push the branch outward and give it a wide connection to the trunk so it does not look like a tiny arm holding a giant house. That connection matters a lot. In nature and in Minecraft, a branch that carries weight should feel thick where it leaves the trunk. Then I add leaves on and around this branch. Leaves are not only decoration here. They help the branch feel alive and natural. And they also soften the shape so the tree does not look like a wooden machine. A shelter in a tree should still look like a tree first. I keep the branch broad enough that a platform can sit on top of it without hanging too far off the edge. This is one of those simple physics tricks in building. If the support is visible under the structure feels more believable. The first branch is now strong, leafy, and wide enough to start the house part of my tsunami shelter. On that first branch, I begin the first level of the house. And I start with a pool made from gold blocks. That is a funny choice. But I want this shelter to be easy to see and easy to find in a panic. Gold is bright, shiny, and very visible against green leaves and brown wood. The pool shape also makes this first level feel useful and not just flat. Water up high can help people stay calm. And in Minecraft, it also fits a luxury treehouse style. On the right side of the pool, I build a glass wall. I use glass because it keeps the edge open and bright while still stopping people from falling. In a high shelter, barriers matter a lot. A drop from a branch this tall would be dangerous, especially if everyone is rushing. Glass is nice because it protects without blocking the view of the village and the wave outside. I want the first level to feel open, but not unsafe. The glass wall gives me both, and the gold blocks make the whole platform stand out like a giant rescue marker. At the front of this first level, I add a little deck from wood slabs. Slabs are perfect for a platform because they look thinner and lighter than full blocks, so the branch below does not feel crushed by a giant heavy floor. A deck also gives people extra room to stand while looking out at the water level or waiting to move higher. In an emergency shelter, outside space can matter just as much as inside space. Then, I extend the level and build one more little pool attached to the first pool. It is smaller, but it helps the level feel more complete and more useful. A second water area also makes the first branch feel like a real living platform instead of one single box. I keep this new part close to the main branch because I do not want the weight hanging too far in the air. That is another thing I keep thinking about. Even when my build is weird and flashy, the platform should still seem supported by the tree. So the pools, deck, and branch all stay close enough to feel connected. Now I build a ladder from the ground all the way up to this level. A ladder is one of the fastest emergency travel tools because it uses almost no space and goes straight upward. That is important in a tsunami shelter. If villagers need to escape quickly, a simple vertical route is much easier than a huge winding stair from the very bottom. I place the ladder so it reaches the little pool level without awkward gaps. Access is one of the biggest parts of survival design. A safe room means nothing if people cannot get there before the water arrives. The ladder also gives the tree a clear front route, so anyone looking at the build understands where to climb. I like that because a build should explain itself. You should be able to see it and know how it works. The ladder does exactly that. It turns the first branch from a floating luxury platform into a real reachable shelter space, and it makes the giant tree start acting like a true rescue base for me, JJ, and the villagers below. From the left side, I start a staircase to the next level using birch slabs and birch stairs. Birch is lighter than oak, and I actually like that for stairs because it makes the path easy to spot. In a tall shelter, clear roots are very important. If all the wood was the same color, the stairs might disappear into the trunk and branches. The pale birch stands out, so it quietly tells people where to go next. I use both slabs and stairs because they create a smoother climb than only full blocks. A smoother path matters when many people have to move fast or when villagers get pushed around easily. I aim this staircase toward the left side so the upper route does not collide with the lower ladder and crowd the middle too much. Good circulation is not only for pretty buildings, it is really important in survival builds too. One path from the ground, then a clearer side route upward. That means people can spread out instead of stacking in one small spot. My tree shelter is getting safer because the movement system is getting better. Behind the first level, I build another platform a bit farther back. This gives the branch more usable area and spreads the shelter space around the trunk instead of forcing everything onto the front. That is helpful because a tsunami shelter should have more than one standing zone. If the front gets crowded, people can move to the back. I keep this rear platform close enough to the trunk that it feels supported and not like a wild balcony hanging in nowhere. The trunk is the strongest part of the whole build, so extra platforms should stay connected to it when possible. This platform also helps balance the composition of the treehouse. The front has pools and a deck, so the back needs some weight too, or the whole build can feel one-sided. Balance matters visually, but it also helps the shelter look more believable. A giant branch with all the heavy parts on only one side would feel wrong. By adding this rear platform, I give the first level a more complete shape and more room for future protection. little left, and behind that platform, I build a closed room. This is important because open decks and pools are nice, but a tsunami shelter also needs a place protected from wind, rain, and spray. I make the room enclosed, so it feels safer than the outside branch areas. Closed rooms are useful in emergency builds because they keep people calm. When the water is rising, being inside something solid feels much better than standing out in the open. I keep the room close to the trunk so it benefits from the strongest support part of the whole tree. That is a good building rule. The more enclosed and important a room is, the more it should sit near the strongest structure. I do not want this room hanging way out on a weak branch tip. It should feel tucked in and stable. Now the first level has outside relaxation space and at least one true shelter room. That mix is good because different people need different kinds of safe space while waiting for the wave to pass. Above the pool, I start another room made from gold blocks, and this one feels like the main bright part of the house. Gold is not a normal wall block for a survival shelter, but I like it because it is easy to see and makes the shelter feel important. In a danger build, bright blocks can actually help with wayfinding. If JJ or villagers are climbing fast, the golden room is easy to recognize. I build it directly above the pool area, so the lower level and upper room feel stacked into one strong branch zone. I do not want random floating pieces all over the tree. I want the levels to feel connected. Over this room, I begin a roof from birch stairs. Birch stairs are nice because roofs need shape, and stairs create a slope that looks much more real than a flat cap. A sloped roof also helps a room look finished and better protected. Water from rain would run off a sloped roof more easily, and that practical idea still helps the build feel smarter. I keep working on that golden upper room and give the walls enough thickness to feel like a true safe zone and not just a shell. Gold blocks have a clean reflective surface, and that makes the room look special. But I still think about shape first. Big plain boxes can be boring, so I use the roof and wall edges to give the room more definition. The birch stair roof is really useful here because the light wood softens the heavy gold and makes the building feel more like a treehouse instead of a treasure vault. Color contrast is helping me a lot. Brown trunk, green leaves, bright gold room, pale birch roof. Those layers make the build easier to understand from far away. This room also being above the pool means the lower and upper levels work almost like one little tower on the branch. That is good for vertical shelter design. It saves space and keeps more of the important rooms close to the strongest branch connection instead of spreading them too far apart. I finish this upper room over the pool and look at how it sits against the branch and trunk. I think this is one of the smarter parts of my build because the room is protected, bright, and high enough to stay safe even if water climbs over the first branch. It also shades part of the area below, which makes the lower platform feel more layered and more like a real home instead of one open slab in the leaves. A good shelter can have different levels of exposure. The lower part can be more open and the upper part can be more closed. That way people can choose where to stay depending on the weather and the danger outside. I keep the roof shape simple, but the slope from the birch stairs does enough work to make the room feel complete. At this point, my shelter already has a lot going on. Ladder, deck, pools, back platform, closed room, and a brighter room above. It is messy in a fun way, but it is also getting high and useful. Now, I go back to the trunk and make it much bigger. I add more oak wood around it and then slowly start narrowing it as it rises. This is really important because giant trees should not stay the exact same thickness all the way up. A real trunk usually starts broad at the base and gets slimmer higher up. Even in Minecraft, that taper makes a tree feel much more natural and strong. It also helps with visual physics. A thick lower section looks like it can hold a heavy top canopy and several platforms. If I kept the trunk equally thick from bottom to top, it would feel strange and stiff. I want this to look like a living support system, not a wooden elevator shaft. Adding more wood around the lower section also makes the inside area bigger, and that will matter later when I use the trunk for water and an escape route. So this extra trunk work is not only for beauty, it is also preparing the tree for more real survival functions. Higher up, I build a couple more branches and use leaves around them too. These upper branches help the tree feel fuller and more believable, but they also do something practical. They spread the visual weight of the top, so the trunk does not look like it is carrying everything through one single branch. In design, repeated supports and repeated growth points make a tall, natural structure feel much more realistic. I place the branches at different angles instead of making them all perfectly level, because trees usually look better when they feel a little irregular. Leaves on these branches help hide the blocky shape and make the silhouette softer. That matters a lot on a giant tree, because otherwise every branch just looks like a wooden arm stuck out of a pole. By mixing branches and leaves, I get a shape that reads as nature first and architecture second. That is exactly what I want. This is a house in a tree, not a tower wearing a few leaf blocks as a disguise. Then I move to the very top and start the big crown of the tree. I make it large because a giant trunk needs a giant canopy, or the whole build feels unfinished. The top also matters for shelter, because a big leafy crown can visually protect the house below and make the upper levels feel hidden from the storm. I spent a lot of time shaping the leaves into a more rounded form. Rounded shapes are hard in Minecraft because blocks always want to become squares. So I place leaves in layers and trim corners mentally as I go. The goal is to make the canopy look full, but not like a perfect cube. Rounder tops feel much more natural and help a fantasy survival tree look convincing. This part takes a lot of effort, but it is worth it because the canopy is what gives the whole project its identity. A shelter on bare branches would still work, but a full crown turns it into a true giant treehouse rising above the village and the coming tsunami. I keep working on the crown and smooth the silhouette even more. A good canopy should have depth, not just a flat outside shell. So I let some areas push outward a little more, and some areas tuck back in. This creates a softer, more natural outline. I also like that a rounded canopy can break wind visually. Even though Minecraft weather does not use real wind forces on leaves this way, the idea still helps the tree feel protective. The crown becomes like a soft green roof over the whole shelter complex. It can shade the rooms below, hide the upper branches, and make the structure feel less exposed to the huge open sky. That is useful for story too. If villagers are scared, a sheltered feeling matters. Big roofs and big leaf covers often make spaces feel safer. So while I am still just placing leaf blocks, I am really building a giant natural shield over the house. This top section is turning the whole build from a weird platform tree into a proper emergency refuge. After the main crown is done, I add one medium branch up high and another branch much lower down. This makes the tree feel more alive because one big canopy with no side branches can look too simple. The upper extra branch helps the crown look more spread and balanced, while the lower branch gives the trunk more interest near the base. I like that because the shelter now has visual action from bottom to top. Also, extra branches make the tree seem older and stronger. A very old giant tree should not be just trunk and top. It should have growth marks and side forms along the way. The lower branch is also useful because it breaks the tall vertical line and helps the build feel tied into the village space below. The upper one strengthens the top silhouette. Together they make the tree look less manufactured. That matters a lot because if the natural part looks convincing, then the house platforms built into it feel more believable too. My shelter is strange, but now it looks like it belongs in the world. Now I go back to the house part and start another room on the second tier. I use gold blocks for the walls again. I know gold is not the most realistic wall material, but I like it here because it keeps the shelter bright and easy to spot among all the leaves. If the tsunami hits and the sky gets dark, bright blocks can help people identify the safest place quickly. I place this room carefully so it feels connected to the second level route and not floating off by itself. Position matters a lot. A high room should still feel reachable and supported. I keep it close enough to the trunk and branch structure so the weight makes sense. The second tier is important because it is higher than the first level and gives one more safe zone if the water climbs farther than I expect. So this room is not only decoration, it is part of the survival plan. A shelter works better when it has backup height and not only one main living level. I continue shaping the second tier room and pay a lot of attention to the wall thickness and the overall size. A room high in a tree should not feel tiny if I want JJ and villagers to fit inside. So I make it large enough to hold people, but not so huge that it overpowers the branch carrying it. That balance is very important. The room needs to feel useful, but the branch still has to look like it can hold it. Gold blocks make the walls easy to read, which helps because there is already a lot going on with leaves, trunk, pools, platforms, and stairs below. The bright walls mark this space as a major shelter point. I also like how the gold stands out against the green canopy around it. Contrast is doing a lot of work here. The more different the room is from the tree, the easier it is to understand where the living space begins. This second tier room is starting to become one of the key parts of the whole base because it sits high and feels enclosed. Then I build the roof of the second tier room from birch stairs. This deserves real attention because roof shape changes everything. Birch stairs are great for this job because they create a slope and keep the top from looking like a flat lid. A sloped roof feels more finished, more house-like, and more believable in bad weather. Rain or spray from the tsunami would visually run off the sides instead of pooling on top. The pale birch color also works really well against the gold walls. It softens the room and keeps it from feeling too heavy or too shiny. In building design, roof material often changes the mood of a structure more than wall material does. Here, the birch roof makes the gold room feel more friendly and more like a tree home. I extend the stairs carefully so the roofline looks even and protective. A proper roof is one of the biggest signs that a room is a safe place and not just a box in the air. I finished the second-tier room and check how it works with the rest of the shelter. Now the tree has multiple living areas at different heights, which is exactly what I wanted from the start. This upper room can work like a backup safe zone for me, JJ, and villagers if the lower branch gets too wet or too crowded. I like that it is enclosed, high, and clearly part of the route system from the ladder and stairs below. When you build for survival, a building should have layers of safety. Open platform first, closed room next, higher room after that. My second-tier room helps complete that idea. It also makes the whole house feel taller and more developed, not just one branch with random features stuck to it. Between the gold walls and the birch roof, the room is easy to spot and easy to understand. That kind of clarity matters in emergency builds. If everyone can tell where the next safe level is, the shelter is doing its job. At last, I go inside the trunk and pour in water. This might sound strange in a tsunami shelter, but it is actually really useful. Water inside a tall trunk can act like a safe drop shaft. If someone is high up and needs to go down quickly later, water prevents fall damage and makes movement smoother. It also gives the tree an emergency escape system after the danger passes. I keep the water inside the trunk so it does not ruin the outside platforms and stairs. Phew, it took so much effort. Great, my shelter is ready. JJ, stop standing there. Did you fall asleep? Actually, I've already completed our shelter here.
Sorry, I was thinking. I see that you've had a lot to build during this time. You're doing great!
Haha, thanks JJ, but I didn't manage to do everything. I don't really like arranging furniture. Maybe you'll do it?
Okay, Mikey, I'm really good at this.
Then finish it quickly. It's time for us to hide.
I'll do my best. It is high time for furniture. I begin furnishing the wooden room first because that space feels like the calmest sleeping area in the whole shelter. I place a bed, a nightstand, and a lamp so the room immediately has a clear rest zone. A shelter needs at least one place where people can lie down, recover, and stay organized while waiting for danger to pass. I also add wardrobes for clothes and shoes. Storage is important in a survival base because scattered items make movement harder, especially when several villagers may need the room. Keeping clothing in wardrobes makes the small space feel tidy and usable. After that, I move near the pool and place a pair of loungers with a sun umbrella. This may sound luxurious for a tsunami shelter, but it actually helps the deck feel intentional and comfortable. Then I go into the golden house and place sofas. As I keep decorating, I look through the window and notice the tsunami getting closer and closer. That changes how I think about the final furniture details. I place one more sofa and add carpets on the floor. Carpets are useful because they make a hard room feel warmer and also define where people should gather. Soft zones can calm everyone down while the storm grows outside. I avoid blocking the walking paths because emergency interiors need clear circulation more than they need too many decorations. Once the main rooms feel complete, I hurry downstairs and begin closing every door in the base. Great! Our shelter is ready. It's time for me to show it to Mikey.
Wow, JJ, did you finish setting up the shelter so quickly? That's great!
Thanks, Mikey. We did a great job. And now we can save ourselves and save our villagers.